friends. Welcome back to the Be the Bigger Person podcast. I'm Melissa, your faith filled friend and grieving daughter who waited until my 30s for love. And through all of this, and then some, has learned a lot about growing in the Lord and in myself. From grief to singleness to marriage to friendships and all the faith in between, let's have the honest and vulnerable conversations that you've been looking for. Before we jump in, if something during this episode sticks out to you or makes you go, ooh, yes, just take a screenshot of the episode on your screen and share it on social media with your people and make sure to tag Be the Bigger Person Pod. So now let's jump right in. Today on the podcast, let's talk about moving to a new city. At the end of last year, moved halfway across the country, and I want us to have that conversation of all of the things that I did that set me up for success and what I would recommend you not at all ever doing so that you can learn from my mistakes. So quick backstory. I got married in February, beginning of February, and I knew that I did not want to make the move. So I grew up in Philadelphia. My now husband lives in Texas, and we decided it was the right thing for us for me to move to Texas. And I knew that I did not want to have to make two very big life decisions or life changes at the same time. So moving and getting married. So we decided that I would move in December, and that way I would have like a month and a half of living here, getting acclimated, moving my stuff, unpacking my stuff, just getting in some sort of a rhythm. So that way when we get back from our honeymoon and our wedding and all of that, there wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, I also have to unpack all my things. That was not going to be the right move for me. So I knew that this was going to be the case. We decided this in April, like end of April, 2024. And then I was moving in December. And so I had a long time to prepare for it. But something to keep in mind, and maybe some of you can relate to this as well, is I grew up within like 25 minutes, the same like 25 minutes my entire life, like 25 minute radius. So like literally there was one time, I don't remember when it was, but like right before we got married, where Ivan and I were in Philly and we went somewhere for lunch. And I was like, oh, we're really close to where I used to live. I'm going to take you on like the Melissa childhood tour. And I literally could drive in, again, like a 25 minute radius. I've lived in 4 houses in my life. I've gone to like 2 school locations. I've had 2 synagogue locations, literally all of them in 25 minutes. And like all the things that were like, oh, I used to go there to play mini golf and blah, blah, blah. So like my whole community growing up was in this little bubble. Right. And so I've never lived anywhere else. When I went to college, my college was like an hour away from my house. So like it was drivable. It was easy. I lived on campus obviously, but like it wasn't like I was moving across the country to go to school. And so moving to Texas literally has been the biggest move ever. I'm moving away from my dad, from my brother. Obviously, also for those of you that have walked through grief, we lost my mom 4 years ago. And like going through grief, you just become, I think we'd have become so much more of like a tighter knit unit, which makes it even harder to move. So I went through a lot of like the ups and the downs, and like I just went through like a lot in preparing my heart and my head and my belongings to move. I think not at first, I don't even remember what order they all went in, but like I went through the like, okay, like this is what I'm doing. This is really exciting. Like I can't wait for a different season, a new season. I can't wait to not finally be long distance anymore with Ivan. And like our whole relationship was long distance. So we'd never had a relationship in the same city. So I was like, okay, I'm really excited for that. I'm excited to try something new. I'm excited for like a bit maybe of a slower pace because my life was very full. And so I was like, meeting new people, all that. So I had all of that. And also just feeling very grateful for some of the things that were put in place already that were going to make the transition easier, some people that I already knew here, a congregation that I knew the people in and really trusted and loved that I'd be attending. And then I went through the like, what am I doing? Like, I'm moving across the country. Like, no, what? No. Like, why? Why am I doing this? Like, and I remember literally, I think at one point I was like in such denial that I think I prayed, like, Lord, can you change this? Like, can something happen where we can be here? Because Ivan's job, Ivan works in oil and gas. And if you know anything about Texas and specifically Houston, where we are, it's like the oil and gas capital of the United States, pretty much. And so it was just wasn't, unless he was going to completely change careers, like we were going to be living here, for the foreseeable future. And so those moments of like excitement, anxiety, like bewilderment of like, literally, what am I doing? All in the above. And just like sadness. Like, I think that's what I don't know that people often talk about as much as like the grief of moving, because I had thought so much about what my future would be like and my life would be like living in Philly. Like, I had thought through like logistics of things and raising kids and marriage and just like the day to day, that I had to grieve all of that. I had to grieve like, I'm putting down roots in Houston now, and I have to grieve the roots that I thought I was going to be building and putting down in a season of marriage in Philly. So yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of emotions. And I also just want to say, like, if you are somebody who is thinking about moving, going to be moving, just recently moved, keeping yourself open to that, knowing you need that, but you don't want it, whatever, like, those feelings are super real and they're very, very normal. And that's where I found myself, like, when people be like, oh, how are you feeling about moving or whatever? Something Ivan says a lot is, as adults, as healthy adults, we can hold nuance. That, I think, is a really important thing to keep in mind in situations like this, because I was so excited. I was so excited to move and be local with Ivan and start the season of our life together and explore somewhere new and, have different rhythms and, whatever, all of that I was so excited for. And I was also really sad about leaving my dad, leaving my brother, leaving our dog, like leaving the people that were my friends, my entire life that were local to Philly, leaving all the things that I knew, all the expectations I had for my life, leaving the comforts that I was used to and felt really safe in. And like, I could hold both at the same time. And I would encourage you as well, again, if you're in a situation where you're moving or you've just recently moved or you're anticipating it or thinking about it, like, you can hold both and it's okay to verbalize both. Nothing's wrong with you. Nothing is the matter. Like, that's just normal. It's so normal. Here are a couple of things that I think really in moving here really helped me thrive. First and foremost was having people that I knew that were built-in people. Obviously, I had Ivan, which was a game changer. But also I had a couple people here already, people that were kind of Ivan's friends that really welcomed me in, people who were part of the congregation that I knew I would be attending. That was something that really helped. And I recognize that some people move to a new city completely alone and don't have those built-in people. I'm going to talk about that. But for me, and I think if you are moving somewhere where you have built-in people, or maybe, again, like, here's another crazy thing. So like, when I got engaged, and at that point I had already known that I was going to be moving, I had a friend reach out to me from college that I hadn't talked to in like 10 years. And he and his wife live like 40 minutes away from here. And he was like, yeah, we would love to reconnect and like get together when you guys are settled. And like, even that, like that, and granted, I'm so grateful that he reached out, because like, that could have been very easy for him to be like, oh, we haven't talked really in like a decade. You know what I mean? Like, why would I reach out? Or for me, like, if I actually didn't know that they lived here, but had I known and like wanted to reach out, it could feel really intimidating to be like, oh, I haven't talked to this person in 10 years. Are they going to be like, oh yeah, welcome back? Like, it can feel awkward. But I think that's where like it's never too late to reach out to somebody. And so if there's somebody that you haven't talked to in a really long time, I mean, you can break the ice by being like, hey, sorry, it's been a decade. Like I should have reached out sooner, but like, hey, I'm going to be moving and like, I think we'll be close to each other. Like it would really mean a lot to me to get together. And I think that's something that I really recommend. That's something that I did was I expressed, and it takes vulnerability, full vulnerability. But I really expressed to some people that I knew could be almost like my point people or people that I felt close to or that I thought I could be close to. Like I expressed that vulnerability where I was like, hey, I am leaving a place where I have a lot of friends and I'm craving that in this. Like, it would really mean a lot to me if we could hang out and like spend some time together. And there was one girl who I'm friends with who was like, yeah, we've got a good group of girls here. Like, I can't wait to plug you in. And so, like, me just like verbalizing that I was feeling nervous about that prompted her to then be like, oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm going to plug you in because maybe she wouldn't have otherwise known that that was something I was desiring or craving or needing. So, if there's people that you already know in a city, like lean into them, right? I also think just getting really intentional with your routines. Something that I remember actually telling Ivan, I want to say it was on our honeymoon and we were talking about going back and to Houston and we were talking about like we don't want to leave the honeymoon because you're just in this like vacation bubble and it's so idyllic. And I was saying like I know that I'm going to need to really rely on routines, like starting out probably more so than I will going forward or that I have in the past. When I first moved here, so I moved here in mid-December, I moved all my stuff in to Ivan's house. Thankfully, he has a house and I moved all my stuff in, but I wasn't living here. We chose that we didn't feel right about like living in the same house together if we weren't married. And so um I moved all my stuff in and like was like spending most of my days here, like working from here and we were eating dinner together and all that. But I was staying with two really good friends of Ivan's who are now good friends of mine, um, who live nearby. So I would like go there at night, sleep there, come back. And so I think especially with that, I was like, I don't have a place to my own. Like I'm sort of a nomad, like um, I just didn't feel like I had any sort of like known rhythms and I had to literally create them from scratch. And that's going to be the case probably whether you have a place of your own, whether you don't, whatever. Like you're moving somewhere new. It is a completely blank slate. You have all the space and time in the world to create new rhythms and new routines. And sometimes that means even if you're not someone who normally loves routine, that kind of means like leaning more into and becoming more intentional with your routines. And so for me, that meant like, what does it look like to have a quiet time? What does it look like for me to have devotionals? Like that needs to be super routine. And actually, I think I've been the most routine with it that I've ever been because I started out like being really intentional about my quiet times and when I would have them and how that would look and like in moving here. Um, Even if it just means like going for a walk or what your exercise routines with, or like, are you going to be super intentional about like, okay, once a week, I'm going to go explore a new coffee shop or a new restaurant or a new park or whatever, like just getting really intentional with your routines. Even if it means like, okay, one night a week, I'm going to have like a unpacking boxes night or like a productivity night where I'm like setting stuff up or, whatever. Or one night a week, I'm going to be really intentional about going out with somebody that I've met or a friend or, just being really, really intentional because then the more that you get into those rhythms, yeah, sure, it won't feel as scheduled and as robotic, but you'll start to kind of the ones that aren't quite working will kind of figure themselves out. The ones that are really working will just come into natural like rhythm. And that will be the like rhythm and the movement that sustains you in this new place. So that was something else I did. I also, before I moved here, I really prayed intentionally and asked God to bring good girlfriends into my life, whether that was friends that are already like friends of mine or friends of Ivan's or whatever that just would become more like that good group of girlfriends, or whether it would be that somebody that we're like kind of friends with would be like, oh, you should meet this person. And that person would become like a really important person in my life, or whether I would just meet somebody completely new, whether at a Bible study or at a coffee shop or just at the grocery store or whatever. I really have been praying and was praying for those good, like really good intentional girlfriends. And I will say, like, I've met a couple of those and met slash like grown relationships with a couple. And I still feel like there's room for God to be like, oh, yeah, no, this is going to be someone really important in your life that I haven't met yet. So that's something that I've been really praying for. God is something that I'm always reminded of is that God cares about details. I mean, when we read in the scriptures, like he talks about the exact like cubic feet of the temple and how to build the temple. And like, if he cares so much about those details, like, then of course he wants us to ask him for those and be specific in those details as well. So that's where I was really intentional about asking him, like, God, I want good girlfriends. I want like those like core group of like women who can be my girls. We can have girls' nights and, I can just feel comfortable with and feel like these are my people here. Before we go any further, let's talk about something special. In case you didn't know, my brother Josh has Down syndrome, and I'm always, literally always, looking for a way to share about him, about Down syndrome, and about our life as a Down syndrome family with others. Throughout my years as an elementary and special education teacher, I was kind of unfortunately surprised by how few books there were that both taught kids about Down syndrome in a way that was age appropriate and not just a science textbook, with also having an engaging story that featured someone with Down syndrome as the main character. So I decided to fill that gap and write a book of my own using my master's degree in special education and my 30 plus years as a Down syndrome sister. The ups and downs of a very special superhero shares with kids and really readers of all ages what Down syndrome is, what characteristics people with Down syndrome often possess, what life with someone who has Down syndrome looks like, and how they can be superheroes too through speaking up for what's right. This book will prompt your kids to ask questions and will give you the answers to guide the conversations, and will empower you and your kids to be leaders for change and for kindness in the disability space. Because the more you understand, the better you will be. And what better way to do that than through storytelling that represents more inclusive characters and families? To get a copy for your family, your classroom, or your friends, head to Special Ups and Downs. That's Special UPS and Downs.com, or use the link below in my episode notes. Now, back to our episode. The other thing that I did, I think that really helped me to thrive was, and I kind of hate this phrase, but I'm going to use it just once, and that is creating a new normal. I don't love the phrase new normal because I feel like it sounds like you're like cutting off what's behind. And maybe that's just me and how I read into it. But I think what could be really easy is when you move somewhere new, trying to basically just like copy and paste into your new place what you did before, and almost trying to like recreate what you came from and what you left behind. And I think there are some things, right? There are some rhythms, there are some routines and whatnot that are going to work in both. But I think reminding yourself, like, this is what I had to do. I had to remind myself to be open to the fact things are going to look different here. And that different doesn't mean worse, and different doesn't mean better. I'll be honest, like, I really struggled with the notion that people were like, oh, because, okay, a little context. For the last 4 years since my mom passed, I really stepped in a major way in my home with my dad and my brother as like the woman of the home, right? So I was organizing everything. I was making dinners every night. I was caregiving for my brother who has Down syndrome, and really like stepping in so many ways, in a lot of ways. And that's why my life was so full. And I remember a lot of people said, like, when I moved here, like, okay, now you can live your life for you and like, leaving it behind and da da da. And I really struggled with that. I really, if I'm being honest, I kind of hated it and I still hate it because I chose that. I chose to do all that. It wasn't something that I was forced to do. I found joy in it. I still like I wasn't abandoning my own needs. I was still clearly I was fostering a and growing a relationship that led to marriage. Like it wasn't like I was abandoning my needs. And so I think I really struggled with that notion that I'm leaving all this behind for something better. Um, my life in Philly was really good, and my life here in Texas is really good. They're different. One's not better than the other. And I think that is important to keep in mind is that, yes, I know that some of you who are moving or have moved will be leaving something that was not good for something that's better, or vice versa. You'll be leaving something that was amazing for something that just feels really hard and really like you're questioning if it's even right. And that's normal too. I think it's also very normal for those of us that left something good for something else good, or if you left something awful for something else awful, like it's okay to have those nuances of like different doesn't mean better, different doesn't mean worse. And so I think for me, recognizing that the routines and the rhythms and the structures of how I've seen things go doesn't need to continue to just be like drag and drop, plug and play, copy and paste, whatever wording you want to use for it. Like that was really important to me too. Is like, okay, I'm in a new place. I'm going to be creating new rhythms. And like that really matters. So those were a couple of things that I did that were really important and I think really mattered. I also think really, I mean, I mentioned it before, but plugging in immediately to whether it be a synagogue, a congregation, a church, a place like that you can be fed spiritually and grow a spiritual community really, 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 really matters. And um like for me, I'm very grateful that Ivan had a congregation that he was attending here that I already was close with the leadership of and a lot of, like a good handful of people here and have continued to meet more people. And so that's been just amazing. And so I feel very blessed. Um, I also have friends who moved to a new city and did church hopping and then found the place that they really felt comfortable with. One of my best friends moved and it took her like probably a year to find that church that she felt really comfortable in and really safe in for her and her husband. And that's like, but it's not for lack of trying, right? Like if you are going to a place, even if you are church hopping or synagogue hopping and you're trying to find that place that you feel is right for you, yes, you're going to go maybe some places that are like, oh, this is really weird. I don't like this place. But you're also probably going to go to some places that are like, wow, this was a really beautiful place. Not for me forever, but like this week, like I feel like the Lord spoke to me, or the Lord can use anything. The Lord just wants to encourage you and pour into you and grow you. And so, yeah, really make sure to find that place and to be consistent as best you can in it. Okay, couple things that I would so recommend not to do. Like, and I'm going to tell you a story and it's kind of sad. I mean, sad in anyways. So Ivan and I drove down here. He flew up to Philly. We drove my car down and all my things and whatever. We did a weekend of it, because I think it's 24 hours. So we like left Friday night, stayed somewhere Saturday, drove, stayed somewhere. And then Sunday we got here at like dinner time and started to kind of unpack some of my things, this, that, or the other, whatever. Ivan went to work on Monday. I woke up on Monday and I was like, you know what? I had this whole plan. I was like, new city, new me. I'm like, because I work remote. I'm like, I'm going to go to a coffee shop and work and like, I'm going to explore. There was this coffee shop I had really wanted to go to. I'm like, I'm going to go there and work and it's going to be so great. And then I'm going to like find a park and just like walk around and get some fresh air and it's going to be amazing. Nothing worked out the way I wanted it to. And nothing worked out the way I wanted it to. And also I threw myself in too fast, too deep. So that is the very first thing I'm going to tell you, because I literally went to this coffee shop, I couldn't find parking anywhere. I got lost. I finally got into the coffee shop. The coffee was terrible. I'm not even going to name what the name was. The coffee shop was not good. I mean, the coffee was not good, and the place was really loud, and I couldn't work anywhere. Like I couldn't focus. And then I was like, okay, fine, I'm just leaving. And then I'm literally driving to try to find this park that turns out it doesn't really exist, or it's not what I thought it was. And I'm literally just like in the parking lot of the park sobbing and thinking that I'm just going to like, again, just throw myself into routines as normal. And so I think that's one really important thing is like, give yourself at least a day to just take it slow, give yourself a lot of grace, feel all your feels, like do whatever you need to do. I ended up just going and like sitting in this park. I found a different park kind of by accident. I just drove by it and I was like, oh, that looks lovely. Let's go here. And I just sat in the grass and sobbed, and I just soaked up the sunlight, and like, I just kind of needed that like outlet. I like listened to worship music, and I just kind of like gave myself space. And I think that also really matters in like, don't feel like, even that first week, I remember both Ivan and my dad, who happens to be my boss, were both like, just take it slow. You just had a really big life change. Like, what are you doing? Like, just give yourself grace. You don't have to do anything. And I get it. Like for many, like you might have to start a new job right away, or you might have to jump right into something right away. And so obviously do the things you need to do and that you're like contractually obligated to do. But in every other area, just give yourself grace, right? Don't feel like you have to cook right away and unpack all your boxes right away and start your rhythms right away or work out right away, or just give yourself so much grace. Like order takeout food and sit on your floor. Like just give yourself so much grace and space to just feel the feels you need to feel, and like allow the transition to happen as it needs to. That like, woof, that will be my like big takeaway from a big life change like that and a big transition. I mean, that's the same in just all big life transitions. Like you wouldn't make a huge life transition and then be like, yeah, I'm just going to get back and right back on my feet right away. Woohoo. Like just give yourself space and time. Don't feel like you have to unpack your boxes right away. Don't feel like you have to set everything up perfect right away or make all the friends right away or find like, I remember driving around too. That was the other thing from that day. I was like, I don't even know where the CVS is. I'm like, I don't know where anything is. You know, like I'm just like crying, and rightly so. I was feeling overwhelmed. I had no awareness of like where anything was. I didn't feel like this was my space. And that lasted for a while. Like that lasted for a good like 2 or 3 weeks. Honestly, I think when it really changed for me was when we got back from the wedding and the honeymoon and I was living here with Ivan, because then I had my space. Wasn't going back and forth in a suitcase. I wasn't feeling like, oh my gosh, this isn't really my space, like blah, blah, blah. I think once I was able to really put down roots in a space, then it felt like, okay, I can do this, you know? And so I think make your space your haven, as much as you're able to, because that will be your grounding for everything out of that space that feels chaotic and unknown. The other thing that I would really recommend is don't just assume that friendships are going to happen naturally. Some may, and you may, like I said before, have some sort of built-in friendships of people you already know or friends of friends, or for me, like Ivan's friends. But even with those, like I had to be intentional, and I'm still desiring and wanting to be intentional in being like, hey, I don't really know anybody here. You want to get your nails done together? Or like, hey, let's have a girls' night. Like, and just putting yourself out there. It can be really vulnerable, really scary, especially if that's not your natural inclination to do so. But what I have learned is there are going to be people that just based on maybe their own life experiences of moving or being in your shoes in like a previous experience for them, maybe they are more inclined to think about like, okay, I need to really reach out to this person. But most people are not going to do that. Most people get busy with life. Most people don't really think like, oh, they think, oh, she's doing fine. She's posting on Instagram smiling. She's just fine. And so it is going to be up to you to reach out to people and express your needs. And even though you are the one who should be receiving, you need to be intentional about setting up opportunities so that you can receive. Um, and maybe that's also like there's all these like clubs that not like not like party clubs, like, group clubs. Did you guys like my rave music soundtrack there? That was really good. It wasn't. But maybe there's like I see all these like groups and clubs and stuff pop up on Instagram where it's like you can meet up with people that are in your same, city, that are similar in age to you, or, whether it be like a book club, or whether it be like a coffee club, or whether it be like if you're single, like a singles group, or, again, Bible studies at a church or a congregation. Like, plug in, maybe it's a running club, maybe it's, some sort of a kickball or sport or something. Like, Instagram is a brilliant, and TikTok, I'm sure. I'm actually not on TikTok, so I don't know. But I mean, I imagine it is. But like, that's where social media is such an asset, because you can literally look up like um you can just look these things up. I forget even how. The one that I was looking at, and actually I've never done it, but I'd be curious if any of you have. It's called Reroute, and it's basically it's for women. They have it like 20s, 30s, 40s, and I think they have like a 50 plus one too, where you can like go and just like go out to dinner with like a bunch of women who are all trying to make friends in a new city. And they have ones that are, you go out to coffee or whatever. Like, they pop up on Instagram now all the time for me. But just like plugging yourself into that, I think, is brilliant. And just really putting yourself out there. Like, if you put yourself out there now, your future self will thank you. And if you put yourself out there now to like meet new friends, create routines, like really pour yourself into those rhythms, your future self will thank you, especially when being in a new city can feel so overwhelming. Like, doing the things now to set your future self up for success is going to be a game changer. The other thing is, what I would highly recommend, and I think it probably is assumed based on what I said before to do, is to not compare your new city or your new season to the last one, because that will keep you stuck. Like, if you're constantly like, well, when I was in Philly, I knew where everything was and now I don't. And like, that will keep you in a victim mentality. Or if you're like, well, on a Friday night, I was able to call up my girlfriends and I knew a bunch of people, they were all around, but now I don't really have any friends, or I have one and she's away, and I don't, that is going to keep you stuck. But if you look at your new season or your new city with a positive mentality of like, yeah, I may not know where anything is right now, but maybe I'll just go out for a drive and figure it out, or kind of orient myself. Or, yeah, I don't have all the girlfriends right now on a Friday night, and, but maybe I'll call one of them. Or maybe I'll go out and do one of these groups and where I can meet new people, or, whatever. Like, I think if you keep yourself in a mentality of like, things now aren't the same as they were, you're never going to actually make the most of the new city you're in. Or if you think like, well, maybe in the future I'll move back, that will be the biggest hindrance for putting roots down for yourself. I remember, and everyone's so well-meaning. A lot of my friends and community members in Philly, and I'm sorry if you are listening and this is you, have said to me, oh, well, we're praying that you move back, or, maybe in 2 or 3 years, you guys will be able to move back, or can't Ivan get a job in Philly out, and then you guys can move back. So what I have realized is that if I take myself into any mentality that is anything other than I am putting down roots here in Houston, it will prevent me from putting down roots here in Houston. So if I say to myself, you know what, maybe in 5 years we'll move back to Philly, or we'll get a chance, or wouldn't that be cool? Or like, oh, maybe that's an opportunity to move somewhere else, or, whatever. It will prevent me from putting down roots, planning my life here, getting settled, being content here in Houston. And I want to be content here. I am content here. I want to have fun here. I am having fun here, right? Like, and so if I continually, and I'm not saying people shouldn't say it, because I get, like, it makes me feel loved, and I get that people want us around, those who live in Philly or those who live elsewhere. And so I get why people say it. I'm not mad at it. I'm not complaining about it. I think for me, I can't let myself get into that mentality of like, well, maybe in the future we'll move to Philly or, whatever, because it prevents me from really being so present and so happy and fulfilled and content with thinking about my life here in Houston. So just allow yourself to dive into it. Allow yourself to put down roots. Allow yourself to just make friends and get out there. Like, don't isolate yourself. Don't feel like, well, when I get my life together, or when I unpack or whatever, like that's never going to happen. Let's be real. Life is always going to be busy. I still have boxes in this closet over here that I need to unpack, and I've been here for a long time. So like, just go for it. Go out, explore, go walking in a park, out to take yourself out to dinner, coffee shop or whatever, talk to the people, like just get out there. Don't isolate yourself or wait too long. But also don't overbook yourself. Like allow yourself to just have some quiet where you can just kind of get your life together and find that balance, I think is what I'm saying. Like don't totally isolate yourself, but don't totally overbook yourself. Like find that happy medium in the middle that is the perfect chef's kiss. So yeah, I think just a couple practical, I mean, I've listed a bunch, but a couple practical steps are get plugged in somewhere, whether it be a Bible study, a church, a congregation, a small group, whatever that looks like. If you're able to work remote, find maybe a co-working space or a coffee shop that you can work at or whatever. Go to a workout class, try some local town events. Message that friend that you haven't talked to in a while from college or high school or whatever that lives nearby and meet up. And maybe they're not your forever friend, but maybe they're somebody for a season. Maybe they are your forever friend. Maybe they're somebody who can connect you with somebody else that leads you in the direction you need to be going in, and be that one that just initiate a coffee date, a walk, going to something together, and just really give it time, because most rhythms are not going to happen instantaneously. They need time to take root and to build, and it's built through consistency. So don't beat yourself up if after a month or 2 or 3 things aren't looking the way you thought they would, or things aren't exactly how you hoped they would be. It'll get there. Just keep building with consistency. So I hope that helps. Let me know. Again, follow me on Instagram, Be the Bigger Person Pod. And if you are somebody who is moving, has moved recently, is anticipating a move, DM me. Let's chat about it, because that really, I would love that. Also, since I've been talking about being intentional and putting myself out there, if you're in the Houston area and you want to hang out and you're not a creep, DM me and let's start some community here. So yeah, I'm really, really grateful. I think the Lord has taught me a lot in moving and leaving the place that I thought I'd never leave. I mean, that was one of the reasons why Ivan for so long thought that things with us would be impossible, because I always said I'd never leave Philly, and look what the Lord did. So never say never to the Lord. That's all I will say. That is all I will say. So on that note, thank you so much for listening. Truly, it just means the world. If this episode encouraged you, or if you just enjoyed it, would you please share it with a friend? If you maybe have a friend that's moving or is kind of in the same phase of life that we've been talking about. And also be sure to hit subscribe on YouTube or on your favorite podcast platform, wherever you get your podcasts and your videos, so you don't miss what's next. And come say hi over on Instagram, Be the Bigger Person Pod, because I'd love to connect with you there. So until next time, bye.